Signing a player on loan can always be a good way of adding some depth to your squad without having to fork out mega money and long-term contracts. While it's often a tool used to give your youth stars some valuable game time up and down the divisions, the loan system has also seen some of the game's biggest stars make a temporary move away from their current employers. With Monaco forward Kylian Mbappe linked with a loan move to PSG before a potential permanent deal next summer, let's take a look at 8 of the biggest loan deals ever. First up, we've got HENRIK LARSSON. During the late 90s and early 2000s, HENRIK LARSSON was one of the deadliest strikers in the land, scoring more than 200 goals for Celtic between 1997 and 2004. The Swede would join Barcelona on a free in 2004 in what had been injury-disrupted 2 years at the new camp, but LARSSON still showed he could score goals wherever he was playing. Having agreed a deal back to his former club Helsingborg, LARSSON would actually get the chance to have a crack at the Premier League, joining Man United on a 3-month loan that coincided with Helsingborg's off-season. The forward scored 3 goals in 13 appearances for the Red Devils and even picked up a Premier League winners' medal for his efforts, despite not actually playing enough games. Next up, we've got Edgar Davids. Famous for his glasses and dreadlocks, Edgar Davids played for some of the best teams in Europe throughout his career, and Barnet. One place he did end up was Barcelona in 2004, but only temporarily. Having been in Italy since 1996 with AC Milan and then Juventus, the Dutchman was allowed to join Barcelona on loan in January 2004 to work with his fellow countryman and the recently appointed Frank Rijkaard. The Catalan Giants were languishing in mid-table before Davids arrived, but the midfielder almost single-handedly carried Barca in the second half of the season, lifting them to second behind champions Valencia. Up next, it's Romelu Lukaku. We've got 2 choices here because Lukaku was actually loaned away from Stamford Bridge twice, first with West Brom and then with Everton. But we're going to focus on his spell with the Toffees due to what it led for the big man, although he did score 17 times for the Baggies during his year at the Hawthorns. The following season, Lukaku would be farmed out again, this time to Everton, where he found the net 15 times in 31 games, proving once again he can score goals in the Premier League. However, Chelsea decided to cash in on Lukaku, receiving £28 million from Everton in the summer of 2014. The goals would continue and Chelsea came back with their tails between their legs, but Lukaku would instead join Man United this summer, where he's off to a flyer. A great example of Chelsea using the loan system poorly. Up next, we've got THIBAUT Courtois. We've looked at a time that Chelsea got their loan dealings wrong, so let's take a look at another example where they got it absolutely spot on. In July 2011, Chelsea completed a €9 million deal for the highly rated THIBAUT Courtois and almost immediately loaned him out to Atletico Madrid, who were on the lookout for a new goalkeeper, having lost David De Gea to Man United. The 6'6" Belgian would win the Europa League at Madrid and would stay on loan for another 2 seasons, winning La Liga and picking up a Champions League runners-up medal. By 2014, Courtois was ready to be the Chelsea number 1 and took Petr Cech's place in the starting 11, where he has been ever since, collecting 2 Premier League winners' medals. Next up, it's Javier Mascherano. 2006 and 2007 were weird ones for Javier Mascherano. The Argentinian midfielder moved to West Ham in one of the oddest deals ever, but was rarely used by boss Alan Pardew, favouring Hayden Mullins instead. Come January 2007, Mascherano was on the move again, joining Liverpool on loan in another deal filled with shenanigans. The move quickly became permanent, but for the month that Mascherano was on loan, it has to go down as one of the biggest temporary moves ever. His partnership with Xabi Alonso would gain Mascherano a move to Barcelona, where he is still at the age of 33, playing centre-back. If only Pardew knew he had that in his locker, then Mullins and Mascherano could have played in the same team. Hindsight is a wonderful thing. Next up, it's Carlos Tevez. We can't mention Mascherano's loan without mentioning Tevez as well, because he was the other half of the crazy transfer that saw 2 of Argentina's hottest young talents head to little old West Ham. While Mascherano quickly jumped ship, Tevez hung around until the end of the season, scoring the goal that guaranteed West Ham's Premier League status at Old Trafford. Funnily enough, that would be his next home, agreeing a 2-year loan deal with the Red Devils in August 2007, with Man United's permanent bid being rejected a month earlier. The number 32 scored 34 times in 99 appearances for the club, then decided to stab the red side of Manchester in the back and join rivals Man City once his loan deal came to an end. Our penultimate loan star is Kingsley Coman. The French winger is one of the brightest young talents around right now, which seems to be the case for any Frenchman under the age of 23, but Coman is the real deal, but he too has had a huge loan deal in his young career. Having moved to Juventus in 2014 from PSG, Coman spent 1 year in the first team before he was on the move, agreeing a 2-year loan deal at Bayern Munich, who also had a clause in the contract that stated they could buy him at the end of the loan for €21 million on top of the €7 million loan deal. It's rare that you'll actually go up a level in club when you move on loan, but Coman did exactly that, and his performances saw him sign permanently this summer, as Munich seem to have found their replacement for the ageing Frank Ribery. And finally, it's James Rodriguez. It's a hat-trick of 2-year loan deals and back-to-back loans for Bayern Munich. For a club their size, they certainly borrow a lot of talent. Anyway, Colombian midfielder James Rodriguez slipped down the Real Madrid pecking order under Zinedine Zidane, with the manager instead choosing a more conservative midfield three of Kroos, Modric and holding midfielder Casemiro, rather than the former all-guns-blazing approach that saw Real Madrid struggle in the big games. With minutes limited, Rodriguez seeked to move away from the Bernabeu, being linked with a move to Manchester United and Chelsea, but it was Munich who nabbed James out of nowhere, agreeing a 2-year loan where he can hopefully get his career back on track. It's the biggest loan deal of the summer, but can Kylian Mbappe beat it? So those are 8 incredible loan deals. Let us know your team's best loan signing in the comments below, and don't forget to like, share and subscribe.